Hello, everyone. Welcome to Synchronic Saturdays with Megan and Crystal. Today, we're going to be discussing more about introverted intuition in the spectrum of introverted intuition. So if you don't know what we mean by talking about high vibe and low vibe, I suggest you go to episode 15, where we sort of define the terms high vibe, which is a more open and expansive way of using the function, while low vibe is going to be a more dense and closed off way of using the function, more contracting versus, expansive. So we've already done a couple episodes on NI, and we sort of introduced the spectrum, and then we also, we were going to talk more about the lower vibe of NI in the last episode, but Crystal had some things to share, sort of unpacking and debunking some of the, I guess, assumptions people might have about NI. And so we are going to, try again with low vibe, right? Is that what you want to talk about? So just sort of getting in the swing of this. How's it going, Crystal?
It's going well. It's sunny here today, and just a good day.
Yeah. So where should we start this? I'm wondering if it would be easier.
Maybe if you have questions about low vibe and I kind of guide the combo.
Okay.
Because, me unpacking it was helpful. I think that sometimes it's hard for me to know if I'm on the topic to NITI standards or something.
So question, I guess, for you is there anything else you'd like to say to sort of debunk things that people might think about NI before we get into this? Is there anything fresh on your brain? And I can ask a better question if that's too broad.
Yeah. Well, I guess the main thing I wanted to say was that it's taken me years to be able to identify NI, and I think that most people have to remember that they don't use NI as their primary in one of their top their dominant and aux functions and their top stackings. They aren't probably going to be able to really know it because it's so it's not how NE is super bubbly and super in your face intuition. NI is much more subtle, and I was really driving that home last time, I thought. But this time I just want to say still that you probably have to be okay and get comfortable with the fact that you probably don't see NI or know what NI is
if you don't use it.
And even if you do use it, unless there's a really specific description, you might not identify with a lot of the descriptions that are kind of in the community. So I'm just trying to really let people know, release any assumptions that they know others know about NI, or that they know how to spot it. It's a learning thing that you have to use curiosity as your gauge for it. So that's the last thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, and so I guess there are kind of two schools of thought here, or two sort of people that might be watching this. Is people that don't use NI and you don't, and you want to learn more. So you're an NP perhaps, or just anyone that uses NE and SI. But then there's also going to be NJs or SPs, but probably NJs that want to learn more about themselves and identify the NI sort of within them. And I think that something that can be hard for those who are actually using NI is that there's so much noise out there of information that people have said about NI that perhaps aren't right on the nose. And it can kind of confuse an NJ who is learning about type, because there's a lot said about NI out there that it's sort of okay, is that NI or is that NI? Because the NJs that are learning about type, they're trying to figure out how to hit the nail on the head. And they're sort of wading through all this information, trying to decide, is that the root of it, or is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, basically.
And so we've talked a little bit about, for those who are unfamiliar, FI seeks to FI seeks things that matter, TI seeks the truth, SI seeks homeostasis, and NI seeks to understand. And so we've already talked a little bit about how unhealthy NI or lower vibe NI does not understand. And I shouldn't have said the word unhealthy because it's confusing, because I'm not trying to say that.
Well, okay, what sometimes we may view as unhealthy, just because we are on this earth, and we might view like low vibe things as unhealthy, but whether they are objectively or not isn't always true. But like how we've been conditioned to be is, don't be low vibe, be high vibe, or something. So I don't think it's okay to like accidentally slip up and use that word when you're trying to unlearn and decondition yourself from using that. Like, it's not like we came out of the womb just understanding the spectrum, right? So like,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, let's like dig in more into like, yeah, so this video is like about the spectrum of low vibe and high vibe. And something I was saying to Megan also earlier was, sometimes for me, because I don't use NI as one of my top functions, I keep thinking about how bad NI looks in other people who don't use NI. But remember, and keep me accountable to staying on track with talking about NJs, like specifically, who are using NI, but it could go from like low vibe to high vibe, because I think I just keep accidentally thinking about all the people out there that don't know what it is or something. You know what I mean, Megan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. I think.
And I guess, like, I guess I'll just say that I'm feeling right now some sort of lack of understanding right now, which might be considered a low vibe NI sort of feeling. So honestly,
Do you want to share about what's going on with you?
well, here's the thing, is that my NI, okay, it just got dark. That's really annoying. Okay, so this is sort of meta, but my NI feels like I see what the 8 functions are. But I don't really know how to explain them sometimes, because I don't know how to translate the understanding in my head externally in a way that makes sense to everybody. And then it can sort of cause me to spiral and be unsure and like lack the understanding, because I believe that if you don't know how to explain, then you don't understand enough, because this level of the amount that I need to understand is so high that it's frustrating and can be somewhat debilitating. And honestly, I think that this video, if you could talk more about the ways that NI bothers you, would be more interesting.
Okay.
Because I honestly, it's really hard for me to pinpoint that, because I don't understand why.
Like NI is hard to explain from any person using it, because it's like you embody it rather than like point to it. And I think that's why I keep saying, like, you probably don't know what NI is, because you have to like feel it or sense it in some way almost to like really know. Because I only think I can identify NJs more because I'm like tuned in to being able to identify them. Like, I couldn't tell you the symptoms of being an NJ as well, unless I was like, it's just really hard. But yeah, like, okay, so like for me, my experience with low vibe NI is I've met a lot more NJ friends in the last couple of years, actually. Like, I didn't have as many close NJ friends in college, but I've met far more, especially since moving out of my parents' house and such. So I think that what bothers me about like about like low vibe NI is like, it's like perpetually like, it's like, it has like this weird like, I've said to Megan before that like low vibe and I manifest in like 2 ways. The person seems like completely dead somehow, the person being NJ, or they are so anxious and like just so ravenous and like beating a dead horse and like repeating the same thing and like it's like annoying to listen to. And I think like INJs seem to do the dead thing more, and ENJs just are like panicking all the time or something. But either way, low vibe NI is just like this like energetic frenzy where someone is like revolving around the same, like it's always like a kind of fundamental question that ties to like their worldview, which is super abstract.
Honestly, existential crisis. Like everybody could have that, but actually that's like a confusing word because a lot of NPs probably relate to having an existential crisis, and like that's true, anyone can have it, but I do feel like every time there's like a really like low vibe NI moment, it probably is an existential crisis.
I would say existential crisis can be felt by intuitive types, but the way that they react to them is different based on if you're NB or NI.
But
Like
doesn't
NE,
existential crisis, the actual meaning of it is like trying to understand the meaning of the world, like trying to understand like,
because
I'm gonna look up the definition because
you should.
sorry, because I'm thinking about how people misuse that word probably a lot, and so it's probably not a good word to use to describe, but I think that the actual definition might fit.
Mm-hmm.
So, or were you?
No, I'm waiting for you to say the definition because you didn't make it clear that you wanted me to keep talking, which is ironic because this happened like last time. We were looking
an existential crisis is a moment at which an individual questions if their life has meaning, purpose, or value. Okay, so it's a little bit more broad. I guess I just think of it as needing to understand the meaning, purpose, and value, but maybe an E user would be like, I don't know.
Well, an E user isn't dwelling in that they don't know the meaning of life. And I think NI just hangs on to that a lot when they don't know. NE will like almost try and like guess at it. They'll have like a million questions to like try and get out the meaning of life. Whereas I think that NI, when it doesn't know the meaning, just seems blank. Like they just seem like they have nothing. They don't have any like
that's kind of how I am right now. I don't know if like you all could tell. Like sometimes I'm sort of like sometimes I like start the podcast by being like, hey, these are some things I want to talk about. But like right now, like I have things in my brain, but I don't like I do feel sort of blank.
So for context, before this podcast, Megan and I were chatting and like kind of having a meeting about like things going on with type and whatever. And there was a moment where she was like, well, I guess triggered into an existential frenzy. And this happens like quite often, honestly. But not just with her, with like a couple of my other NJ friends I'm getting closer to. I see it happen with them, which is how I realize this is something that like all NJs probably experience, but only if they're close to you will they really let you sit there and watch them basically be like, ah! And it's like weird because like while you're sitting there as someone who's like, you know, been friends with Megan and NJs for a few years, as you're sitting there, it's like you're watching like, you know how like on a TV, like the older TVs when there's no programming left, it would just be like no input or like zigzag, like repeating or whatever. That's like kind of how it feels to be someone watching an NJ like experience like a breakdown, because even if they're like, because they never are talking like a shit ton when they're in the low vibe of not understanding. Like even my ENTJ friend who experienced a ton of breakdowns, he wouldn't really talk about what he was going through. He would just start like saying, mumbling like things like, oh, that bird over there, or oh, like it's like either way when I'm around like low vibe NI, it's literally just like kind of watching stimulation just pass someone and not like go in. It's like so interesting.
Well, I guess like what I would think would be cool to convey in this video is like that there's no need to be jealous of an NJ because we have our own problems. But I weirdly feel like when an NJ expresses a problem and when NJ is experiencing lower vibe NI, there are two things that can happen. Either people are going to think oh, you're so self-aware, like you've got this, you're going to be fine. Or they're going to think, oh my gosh, what you're describing sounds sort of mentally unwell. You need to go see a therapist. And I think it's because NI is misunderstood. And then a lot of NJs probably experience when they are unwell going to a therapist, explaining their problem, and then the therapist is going to be like, oh wow, you're so self-aware, like you're really far ahead. And then the NJ is going to be like, okay, so what the fuck am I supposed to do then? Like, just because I'm self-aware, that doesn't mean shit. Like, and so I think the thing is that it is a more rare function. I don't have the actual statistics for you, but it is more rare and it is more misunderstood. And so it's like people either are noticing how I don't know, like it's almost like it's not taken seriously, because I literally do feel like the NE users are still just like sort of jealous of the way that NI is, and like thinks that if you were that way, then you'd be able to solve the problem. But I mean, I feel the same about you. Like with your NE, I feel like, man, if I could just control Crystal's head for a day, like she has so much potential, it would be so like awesome. But like, would you say that NPs feel that way too about NI? Or
yeah, like NE thinks that like NI is NE plus. So like, it's so simple. Why can't you figure it out when they have a problem? Or they'll be like, oh, I wish I had NI right now. That is what I've seen from 2 NE dom friends. And it's like, no, you have like one or the other. It's like low vibe NI. It's like NI users, yeah, sure, they have like a keen understanding of things, but like, do you know how fucking long that takes to form? They can't just use questions and like guess at what that meaning is with NE, because to even formulate those questions takes so much work for them. Like, it's kind of like with all extroverted functions, it's easier to get like the gist or like do like a summary of something real fast, and NE can just sum up the intuition that they're experiencing. If they have a breakdown, they're like, okay, like I have these kinds of questions, and I might not even be able to generate those questions. They just know that they're reacting to something existential, which is why it's very scary to be around one, because literally nothing will be clicking for them. And if it does click, it seems like it comes, like, I don't even know like how you guys get out of these things. When you say, oh, I didn't get out of it, but it's like, but now you're moving again, like as an animate object again. So it's like, I never understand. I understand what it's like when you're going through it, but not when is it like fog where it just like comes and then it just goes? Like, I like always wonder.
It really is like fog.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Man, yeah, I'm feeling pretty foggy right now, honestly.
Yeah, oh, I know. You said that a few times, hon.
I didn't use the word foggy.
Oh, maybe it's my NE, like just like okay, whatever. Whenever I'm like in situations, I like can think of like millions of potential words to describe it, and if I've described it with one, I don't notice like with SE if another word was used later to describe the same thing, because in my head they'll be like the same idea or something.
And see, like, yeah, that's something I absolutely don't do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a question. So let's say if you were to just perceive someone like me who might be feeling a little foggy or confused or lack understanding, what are some ways that NE can misinterpret that behavior? Like, if you don't know type, or even if you do and you're just sort of projecting your NE onto the person, what are some misperceptions that people can have?
Keep in mind, I'm kind of judgmental, so
I know you are. Well, you can share your own judgments then.
Well, it's okay. Disclaimer: I've tried really hard to not think these things, and it's like, what? You don't have TI. How can you judge things? Whatever. But it's really hard for me to not be like, you're just lazy or something. With which NJs, like, because to me, NE comes so naturally when I'm using intuition. So I like don't realize that other people can't just generate questions out of nowhere, because when I'm upset or like have like, I would never call my upset moments even blank moments, so I just feel like it's already out of the question. But like, theoretically, if I were experiencing what I believe a blank or anxious moment is as an intuitive, I would just fucking start talking myself through it, and I would have a dialogue with myself. Like, that's how I deal with things. So when NJs can't access that dialogue because they're literally blank, I'm just like, just access the dialogue or something.
Oh yeah, there is no dialogue. Wait, what do you mean by
Exactly.
dialogue? Because this could be a key feature of low vibe NI.
Well, okay, like for me,
It almost feels like a black hole.
yeah, it acts like one because it sucks my energy out.
It really
too.
is, actually.
Like, it's funny when you're around low vibe NI, you literally also lose your ability to believe in anything. Like, in my opinion, like, because what they say is just so achingly painful to the plight of not just themselves but like the world or something. I can't really give an example, but like it just is like that. So like an example of a dialogue for an NE user is like, okay, so like I'm having a bad day and I'm like, oh, Crystal, why do you feel bad? Like, oh, I feel bad because of this. Or what do you think could solve the problem? Well, I don't know if this will solve it because this could happen. But what if that could solve it? But that would happen too. It's like I just run through so many scenarios, troubleshoots, go through so many possible ideas and solutions. It's like an endless train of NE. It's like balls being shot toward me. I'm just catching them and throwing them back. It's like constant like volleying of like voices in my head going back and forth. And I just has like no voices, it seems like, when it's upset. Like, it's like the complete inverse of how an NE breakdown would be, it seems. So I can't
I almost feel like
those voices.
I almost feel like low vibe NI is a black hole, which is a region of space having a gravitational field so intense that no matter or radiation can escape. It's and it reflects what you were saying earlier about it seeming like when you see an NJ freak out, that it's like the light went off in your friend. Like, it feels like a black hole. But then like higher vibe NI is almost like light, you know, seeing the way, everything, knowing everything. Sort of.
I feel like I'm experiencing NI right now about the black hole thing, because I'm having this like montage play out with like all my NJ friends, and every single time I've watched the light go out, and I'm like, yeah,
it's almost like
basically.
gravity just sort of pulls you.
But what is the gravity symbolizing here? Like, is it an idea that you're about to break into, or what? Like, what could the gravity be? Because a black hole could only exist, right? Or I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
I don't know. It also sort of just feels like, well, I've imploding into yourself.
Like, it's funny because stars collapse like that.
Yeah.
Like, supernovas, yeah.
It really is. I mean, like, there's no now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think that low vibe NI has anything going on in the brain.
Like, yeah, low vibe NI is literally like, you have no thoughts, you can't do anything, you're just like stuck or something. Like, there's no way to start the engine. That's what it seems like. And also, this is just me like using NE to like guess what it could be, which in of itself,
I think you're right.
This is just something that no NJ could ever do to a fellow NJ. I'm just like shooting ideas at you. I'm like, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, it feels, or go ahead.
Like, okay, other SI details about low vibe NI is they talk slower, they look zoned out, they sound zoned out, they take longer to respond to things, they can't keep track of anything their friends are saying, or they'll like, that's like an NFJ thing. NTJs, they'll say something and you'll be like, that's, who are you responding to? Like, I didn't say anything. Like, they'll like they won't be like connected somehow. It's like the phone connection's like,
well, I think that we both, NTJs and NFJs, struggle to remember what was said or whatever, but NTJs, even if they're zoned out, they're still gonna notice the TE going on. And like, for me, and since you're a TE user, you probably notice that. But like, for example, like, even when I'm completely zoned out, I would be able to notice a change in emotional tone that went on. So
yeah. Well, I mean, like with NTJs, like, yeah, because I'm a TE user, I notice. Well, basically, there'll still be like a noticeable shift in like how they're communicating, because it's like, yeah, normally your SI is bad, you don't remember what's said, but it's even worse when you're zoned out. Like, in low vibe NI. Like you won't remember a single, like I could be taught, it seems like almost to me, like you had me on mute because like the static sound on your little brain TV is too loud or something. Like it's like the entire world is just like moving without sound or color or something is what I'd imagine it would be like almost for NI to not be here or be like low vibe. It just feels like, yeah, they're not here is what it feels like. Low vibe
Yeah.
NI.
Where
Like
are they?
their brain's been hijacked to another dimension and they don't know how to navigate that dimension. It reminds me of like, if you use more space metaphors, you have to use a space probe to like navigate rovers on Mars, right? Like stuff like that. Also a space probe to like take a picture of like it's like you just can't control your like person. The connection's been lost or something,
Yeah, and I
you're
think
sitting there
that,
trying to figure out how to get it back, as opposed to there's like nothing you can do.
and I think too, like, I guess on I'm still stuck on the idea that I don't think that people realize how bad NJ's SI is. And how when we're in these moments, we don't have SI to pull from. Like,
Ooh, let's unpack that. Because
yeah,
low vibe NI would be exacerbated by a lack of SI. I said at some point that like without
which means
any
there's no homeostasis, there's no
yeah
foundation. That's why it feels almost like a trap door that you fell through, because there's no
because I said at some
foundation.
point, like when NI users have breakdowns, it bugs me because they have literally nothing to start from. They have no SI foundation to
You
rebuild.
don't have like branches to hold on to.
Yeah, it's like you felt. To me, I think SI is about like building a world, because okay, just don't interrupt me here. Well, I guess you're in a funk, so but like babies when they're born, they like just have to use SI to gradually understand the world. Like they have to grab onto things to create a like sensory world for themselves of what their body is, and like what their fingers are, what their nose is, what their mouth is, things like that. Like, and I think
Which, can
that
I say one thing?
I guess I don't interrupt me.
I know you did, but this fits with what you're saying.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that I promise it does, is that NI is not doing that. NI is connected with the source energy that they are, just knowing I'm alive, knowing what life is without, yeah.
And so when SI is like building and things like that, they're also just building. It's like it's like SI is like building a world for itself, right? And SI creates NE, like NPs who create mystical worlds, if they're like writers or something, they are using SI to build. There's like sensory branches, sensory like building blocks, things like that. And I think that for NI, when you have a breakdown, for me at least, too, as an NEP, the thing I have to cling on to is in the sensory world, I can at least like eat something, or I can at least like, I don't know, like brush my hair, something. There's like something physical to hold on to that I still exist. And I think an NJ does not feel like they exist, like what you're saying.
I just thought of something. So me and my INFJ girlfriend have been watching the show Girls from HBO, and the character Marnie is an ISTJ. And Marnie, like, she was going through a breakup and a friend fight, and they showed this thing where she was like up early, went on a run, and then like made a smoothie. And then my girlfriend Jess just goes, only a censor would be able to make a fucking smoothie after a breakup. And we were just like, oh my God, yes, it's so true. And like, Jess doesn't know that much about Myers-Briggs. She just is pretty intuitive and understandingful. But the way I would then reframe that is that is an example of something to grab onto. Like, the ISTJ was having a breakdown, but was able to still make a smoothie to feel better or something. And like, I can't imagine having the energy to do something like that. I barely have the energy to do that on a normal day, much less after.
Like, it's funny. I'm like, type the person by, if they're an N or S, by what they do when they're upset. Like, literally.
Honestly, that's a really good point, because like, You know, like, I think in general, intuitives, when they are upset, will try and, like, muse about the concept, but, like, a sensor will try and do something, like, in the sensory world to comfort them to some extent.
It makes me realize that, like, a friend of mine thought was an INTJ is an ISTJ, because she was talking about how she, like, well, actually, I don't know. It depends on how, it depends. I don't know.
Because, I mean,
Because,
if you make something a part of your routine, it wouldn't feel like that hard.
wait. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Okay, wait. I have 2 ITJ female Asian friends. And I think one's an ISTJ. And I was confused because I was thinking about how the other one also. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So, yes.
Okay.
Totally. Because I was thinking about how my who I suspect is an ISTJ, my ISTJ friend talks about when she's stressed, she just bakes and cleans and bakes and stuff. And I used to think she was an INTJ because we got along, and now I'm realizing, well, I get along with like most just TJs, so like who knows, right? But now I'm like, oh shit. And then I was connecting it to how my INTJ friend, Maggie, who shout out, she probably will never watch this, but whatever. She like enjoys, her FI enjoys cleaning and keeping things clean, but when she's stressed, I realize she doesn't like start baking as a defense mechanism. She will probably just sit there and go to sleep, is what she does. She goes, okay, my body, she's like, okay, like I'm like stressed out and anxious, so I'm gonna like smoke a jewel and like go to sleep. Or
I think because it's important to remember that the reason why an NJ is probably stressed is probably connected to our low homeostasis to begin with. And it's probably connected to the fact that we have no energy. Whereas an SJ who is super stressed is probably not sure the meaning of life or not sure where they're going. And so they're going to cling on to where they are to feel like they have a foundation. But for us, it's like, even if an NJ does enjoy cooking, like I actually do enjoy cooking, but when on my off days I have a harder time doing it because I'm too exhausted to do it. It's like I'm not great at managing my sensory, like physical energy. And so I think ENJs will do this thing where we continuously burn out, and I think INJs burn out as well. But when SE is in the tertiary, we can be a little too overconfident and just like burn ourselves out like a lot and like think that we have enough energy when we don't. But normally, if I'm thinking correctly, I think this black hole really is probably related to how poorly our body, how little energy we have. It's like we ran out, a battery went out.
Yeah, like I have an ISFJ roommate, and I for the longest time also didn't realize that she was an ISFJ because, you know, like SJs, when they're intuitive, you really can't tell because they don't act like your traditional SJ parents.
Actually, pause. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm so sorry. Will you continue explaining what you're about to, though?
No, because I want you to listen. So I'm gonna wait till, or give me something else to talk about while you're there.
Talk about the fact that I can't plan for the fact that I have to go to the bathroom and how that's
okay. Yeah, sure. I'll tell how annoying that is. So like, okay, my thing is like when I go on a road trip, I will start feeling the sensation of I need to pee, and I will know how urgent it is immediately. So like I can be like driving, being like, I need to pee. Okay, I'm like 30 minutes out. I'm probably good. But Megan will be like, I need to pee like now. And I'm just like, we've been on road trips together, and I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ, you actually need to pee like right now? Like we just went. Why didn't you go then? And it'll have only been like maybe 10 minutes. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna exit again because you can't plan for this shit. Because it's like, and Jay's like, life just happens to you, you know? And I'm like, no, like, oh my fucking God. Like, it's so difficult. Like, an NJ with a UTI, that would really be something. Oh my God. Like, they would literally not be able to do anything because, like, I always know instantly when I have a UTI because I will literally be like, that's not right. Why do I need to pee again after 10 minutes? Like, I only need to usually pee after blah, blah, blah time or correlate with the amount of water I drank that day. So that's how I know. And it's weird to me that NJs don't know that shit. Oh my gosh. Like, but, and it's not that like they don't try or care, but it's also like how I can't monitor my thoughts with TI the way other people can. Like it's like something not to be blamed for, but definitely most of society has some sort of SI. It doesn't structure life to be as spontaneous as the way NJs make it. And so I think that's why a lot of them actually test as NPs. because they literally don't use SI, and so that makes them seem not spontaneous. That makes them seem not structured. Oh, I was just telling the group about how I think the reason why I like NJs, my test is NPs, is because they seem spontaneous when they react off their lack of SI. Like suddenly you need to go to the bathroom and suddenly you need to do this and you weren't paying
Yeah.
attention. It's like, yeah, I was talking about how like for me when I got like a UTI, I knew immediately because I was like, wait, I shouldn't have to pee after 10 minutes ago. Like I just am like, I haven't been drinking enough water today to be peeing this often. So I have a UTI. I
Yeah.
know.
And I also
Like
think
that's how
that
I am.
NJs, like according to Dave Superpower's theory, if you value FE or TE, you value the tribe. And so a lot of NJs, because the tribe doesn't see us as having a rhyme or reason, as most of the tribe doesn't really see where we're going, we can sort of believe it. We can start to believe that we don't have a rhyme or reason because we're always
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also saying how like because NI is so rare, and I believe that too, most of our society has enough SI to do things. So when NJs don't have SI, I think society can be very unforgiving toward NJs struggling with mental health because that blank thing, no one knows how to solve it because everyone uses SI to solve their anxiety. Like SI is like monitor your body more or something. But it's
and even like the way that most
yeah.
therapy, even the way most therapy is pretty much helping you unpack your trauma mentally. I mean, like cognitive behavioral therapy is about cognitively understanding what's going on. And a lot of NJs are like, well, I already know this. So how do I apply it?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. And I'm actually gonna go see a somatic therapist tomorrow because
Yes.
like but she's like more she's more I would say SE and I because every therapist I've ever been to, because I tried a bunch in college, just told me to like go take up meditation more or something, which makes me realize that what they really meant, because meditation invokes SE and I, like they were saying my solution is different. But like this person was talking about like grounding and like touching my body in certain places and understanding how that makes me react and like kind of aligns and centers me, and how certain things keep me on balance in a sensory way, I think is actually really fascinating because it's different than just, oh, what are your feelings about things? I'm like, I already know. But it's like, how can I memory map and remember how eating an apple makes me feel good all day or something, right? Like it's like that kind of thing I think actually grounds me more, because even just talking to her and putting money toward this has given me somehow the energy to do more things lately. And I know I'm not an NJ necessarily, but what I am thinking about is that like when you have like low vibe and I think a lot of NJs don't know how to like maybe look to their body for answers or something, because maybe something is drastically off with your body that can't give you the energy to literally get yourself out of the blankness or something. Like I don't know what the metaphor for the black hole would be to get yourself out of it, but you have to have somehow
Yeah.
a powerful enough suction force to get yourself out of the
Here's an
hole.
example. Here's an example of low vibe NI from a friend of mine that recently happened. Is they just couldn't get out of bed, even though they woke up on time. Just had absolutely no energy, and then like in their head was just completely dwelling in like, okay, I I don't deserve to do this unless I do this first. And it's like your body sort of like, I'm hungry, but I don't deserve to eat, or I don't have the energy to eat. Just sort of like completely repressing all and any SI needs, because your NI doesn't really understand why you're even in that spot to begin with. And then you just literally become a shell of yourself because your battery is dead and you don't have the energy to charge. And you don't think that you deserve to do anything for yourself because I don't know, like it's just this sort of cycle that happens where it's
Yeah,
like,
it's funny because when I'm having a bad time, you ask me if I'm punishing myself if I don't eat or something. And I don't consciously know that, but I think some people like do. Like NJs, I think, can have kind of a weird commentary or awareness of like not being able to like let themselves go or something.
Yeah, and like this person was like, tried to eat something flavorful and then threw it up, and then tried to eat toast and was able to eat the toast because they didn't deserve the flavor.
That's like so interesting. And
Yeah.
yeah, see even then that's like low vibe NI, but that's still like being blank, right? It's like not being able to accept new stimuli and incorporate it into yourself, because new stimuli would get yourself out of the blankness. Like it is like a black hole. It's just like, it's almost like you retract everything from you. You
And the
repulse
only
everything from you.
way,
And it's funny because NJs have always said I'm repulsive when they're in those states, because they
yeah,
are repelling things. They literally are. Yeah.
and I think the only way to really get out of it is to like use SE to some extent. And this sort of fits with the theme that all of our low and high vibe things we've talked about thus far, the higher vibe sort of incorporates almost of the other side of the coin, where you, I think, have to just, NJs that are in the spot have to just decide to not be there. You just have to decide. And I think that sounds honestly overly simplistic, because whenever you are in a lower vibe NI, you are probably overthinking whatever's going on to an extreme degree, where you almost want the solution to be very complex based on how much time you spend thinking about it. And the real answer is probably like absurdly simple in a way that we don't know how to accept. Like, if you're stuck in bed and you don't think you deserve getting up, literally just eat something. And it's like, oh, but how do I eat something? And it's like, there is no how. You just have to use your SE and just do it, even if you don't want to. And it's like hard to do that, but sometimes we get in these situations.
Yeah. Well, I've also read something that might help an NJ in that situation is like focusing it's like when you're like in bed, the action that you want to do is like get up. But if you can't get up, your NI is going to notice how much you can't get up and have like lack around that. Like you will be making more lack by thinking
and it's sort
hard
of like
about how you can't get up. Yeah.
It's sort of like, why can't I get up? What did I do
You'll be
wrong?
thinking.
Did I stay up too late last night? Does this mean that there's a relationship issue? Does this mean that there's a work issue? Does this mean that I'm on the wrong path? Is this a sign that I'm supposed to be doing this? We need to know, like, if we're on the right path, when sometimes it is just that you were tired or something, you know? And it's so hard to accept how simple it can be.
Yeah, basically. And I think like it is hard to accept how simple it really be like that. But
I was gonna say,
like, no, don't cut me off again. But like,
I just didn't know if you had something to say or not.
No, I'm thinking, like, that's why. But basically, what I was saying is like, if you focus on the thing you can't do, like this ENFP, like motivational life coach said, like try to focus on something you can do, and that's like kind of SI, I think. To be like, it's like, okay, like my body's rejecting eating something flavorful, so I will try to eat something less flavorful. Okay, your body's okay with that. Cool. It's like, okay, my body, I can't get out of bed. Well, what can I do? I can at least go on my phone. Cool. That's doing something better than literally just lying here and doing nothing. Okay, I got on my phone. Okay, what else can I do? It's like you have to literally, like, if you're focused on I can't do this, be like, can I do this? Like you have to like kind of do that.
Almost like use any to view more of the possibilities.
Yeah, but see, even I think an NP would even have trouble zoning in on those small time possibilities. It's like SI specifically, because SI is like little action. Because I'd be like, I can get out of bed, but I can get on my phone. That's dumb. Like I like that's my reaction to it. So I wouldn't, like, what she said in this book was mind blowing to me too, because I was like, oh, so I should focus on what I can do. I didn't think about that. But yeah, it is like SI using NE basically. And I don't think that comes naturally to an NJ to try and focus on like something else they can do as like being grateful for that or something. Because it's like, I still didn't do the most important thing, aka get out of bed. I shouldn't be giving myself a brownie point just because I like fucking got on my phone or something. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the thing like that's like how I would like shift my perspective as like an E user. But I don't think NJs that like works to like motivate them as much. But I think it's like still better than nothing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So yeah, that's nice. Yeah, and I was gonna just share too openly, maybe as an example or something, that right now I feel just like very insecure and like I'm not in my body, like right now. And I'm wondering if maybe talking about how I feel right now could not only be using your advice of what's something I can do, but also serving as an example or doing something to some extent. Because honestly,
Yeah.
I
Like
just feel so alienated as a person. Like, and I don't know. Like, I just feel like constantly projected upon and constantly alienated, and that nobody cares. Not enough people care to look to the root of the matter. And whenever my brain is focused on the root of the matter, if nobody else is looking there, then I'm crazy. And that's how a lot of NJs feel, because we take the effort to look to the root of the matter, and then it's like that's what we're looking at. And if people are denying that, then they're denying us.
mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, I've been thinking lately about how, as much as I can perhaps disagree with NTJs, they can at least tell me why they disagree pretty easily by just like pointing at what I said and then having a discussion about it. I never feel alienated or dismissed or misunderstood by NTJs for as different as we are. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they at least see what I'm reacting to, and then they can give me advice or feedback on how maybe they would react differently, or some other info about what's going on. But they aren't going to just go out on a limb and say something that has nothing to do with what I was even thinking about. And whenever people do that, I feel very, very alienated. And right now I'm just sort of feeling like, if people don't understand what I'm talking about, then why should I even share anything? And my perception is a little bit off right now, because I know that there are people that do get value from what I say, but I just am almost like imploding thinking about all of the times that people don't recognize I believe in the power of it, because I've been a person who, just for background, it's like I watch a lot of YouTube content, and I have dozens of people that I look up to that have small to medium channels. And I know how alone I have always felt. And I know that when there's somebody who's preaching to the choir to some extent, or giving me clarity to something that I'm curious about, it means the world to me. And so I believe in that power. I don't believe in myself enough sometimes that I can be that person. Because that's really what I want to do. It's not like I want to be, like, I feel like I could be that person for people, not because I want to be the only person, but because I know that there needs to be multiple people like that, because everybody needs someone. You know what I mean? Like, if I have a dozen like people that I look up to in order to make me feel like I understand what's going on, then I'm assuming that there are other people that also want other people to listen to.
Yeah, I think
help
it's like
them.
kind of NE to like be like, well, objectively, it's happy to be something like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like how would you not be?
Yeah, and it's not like what I'm saying is ever going to be the end all be all, and I never want it to be. But I do believe that, based on some of the comments I've received, that some of the things that I've said has helped people think about things and in a new way. And I want to continue on. It's like I learn insight from others, and I want to continue on. It has no use just existing in my head. But there are times when I feel like whatever frequency I'm tuned into, which is like more of an NI thing, that the world just keeps dismissing it. And so why should I even try? But I think that what is probably accurate for NJs is that you have to just be your frequency and trust that other people that are looking will find you. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think like low vibe NI is like with the black hole, because you have nothing to trust, because you know the sensory foundation, you don't trust the world and yourself that's part of the world. It's like really
I
hard.
absolutely don't trust the world.
Or yourself, which is part of the world. Like your body is like part of the earth that we live on, right? If NI believes that we are like the universe in some regard, if you are into that, I guess. If an NI user who's spiritual could believe that the universe lives in us, then my SJ roommate believes that we are part of the earth because we inhabit the earth, and the earth is a unit too, like a sensory unit. So I think when NJs are in low vibe, they don't trust the world or themselves, because
I feel like we never truly attach to our bodies for real. Like, part of me still like, okay, Crystal, how often do you ever just have sort of this like almost glitch in perception where you're like, wait, I'm a fucking human. What? Does that happen to you a lot? Because that happens to me like almost every day. I'm just like, whoa, I'm like, here? What? Like,
no, it doesn't.
I feel like, I don't know, comment below if you're an NJ and you relate to that. But I feel like, if I'm being honest, like almost multiple times a week, it's so sort of like, you are a 24-year-old woman named Meghan and you live here. And it's sort of like, okay.
Yeah. So my INTJ best friend, she is like really good at SI, I think. Like she knows like a lot about food, and she like takes care of herself even when she's upset at times. Like she does sensory things, like I think she's trained herself to, but not because she like likes it. She's just like, okay, it's my duty to keep doing this. But like she refers to people as humans. She never says the word person or people or boy or girl. She goes, oh, like they're just a more emotional human, that's all. Like she uses that word so often. I've asked her, why do you use the word? I was like, why do you use that word so much? And she's like, I don't know, but I think like she does know, but doesn't want to say. And it makes me think that she has to remind herself of people's humanity, and like saying the word human and the SE is the way to do it. That's like my guess. But I just think it's so cute. I don't know.
You know
like
what? I think that's another thing. You always talk about, you always hear NJs talk about human nature. But I think
I have no interest in dissecting. I'm just like, okay.
I think that it's hard for humans to discuss human nature because it is our nature. Like, it's like, how can you even see it if you are so in it? But I think NJs have a hard time even connecting with being a human to begin with. That like NJs can just sort of say these things of like, I'm sorry. NJs can sort of be like, man, humans are so wrapped up with fear and love.
Oh my God, I hate it when they say that. But yeah, it happens.
It's almost like we feel like, I don't know, like honestly, like being a human is so scary. Like, what the hell is going on? Nobody knows. Like, and we're all just accepting it and pretending like we know what's going on. Like, how? I almost feel like SI users are able to buy into it. And I'm not saying like in a bad way, but it's like, you all are like playing the game of life.
Well, I mean, how's the universe not a game, and life itself is the anti-game, right? Like, I think it's like, yeah, like sure, life is a game, but life is also like all we have that we know in this conscious form or something. Like, it's like, I don't know. Like, I think for me, I always think about,
so weird. It's just so weird. Like, you just show up as a baby and then all of a sudden, like, this is just going on. Like, what?
I can't relate because my SI is just like, this is all I've ever known. I don't think about if it's weird or not. I just think it is what it is. So I think it's like weird that you could think otherwise, because like even within the ideas I have, it's like at the end of the day, all I have is like what I've known, which is what I've lived, and that I am in this body and I'm stuck with it.
I think a lot of like satire humor, or even just like NJ humor in general, can sort of have this bird's eye view of things in a really weird way, where it's like, why do humans like do this like we have a lot of observations that are very detached of like, gosh, I can't even think of one right now.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna go to the reductress for inspiration right now, just to share.
Did you see my article that was like, Robert Mueller offers unredacted copy of case to his Patreon subscribers?
No, I didn't.
I was like, that's like hilarious, and that's like a commentary on how people always are like, Patreon, like subscribe to me, and they're like taking that and applying it to like a very like serious issue right now. I think all people with SI are like, oh my god, like the Mueller report, and someone else is just like, fuck that, like, yeah, you just make a Patreon and everyone just go crazy for it or whatever. I don't know. It's just like such a like fuck off humanity kind of thing almost is their attitude.
Okay, like hold on. So here's like an example of an art. This website Reductress is sort of like the Onion, but like a woman's magazine, so it's all satire. And this one says, "Oh no, this woman knows exactly how beautiful she is." And then it says, "She realizes her inner and outer sense of worth, and that is very scary to everyone around her." That is as good of, or go ahead.
I was like, I don't think that's as good of an example as like some of the headlines have been, because I'm just like, wait, the headlines wait, what? Sorry, wait, okay.
Oh, well, I mean, what I was gonna say about that is that it's like very NI to like notice like in real time, like if somebody is reacting to a woman in that way, knowing why that is a phenomenon.
Can you read another one?
Here's another one.
Yeah.
Man,
that one wasn't as funny as usual.
Oh, maybe because it lacked NE.
Like, I mean, I guess I feel like, well, okay, maybe I don't think it lacked any necessarily, but that like I'm thinking that like people always talk about, like it's like it's already something that people just talk about, like that women who know their worth are scary. Like it's like I think.
No, like I think what I was getting is that it's ironic that everybody is always saying that you should believe in yourself and know that you're beautiful, but then when you actually are, you're rejected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. But I mean, like, for me, I was just thinking about, like, how Reductress sometimes has, like, really piercing good, and I, like, damn, I haven't even thought of it that way before, because that was how NI it was, or something. So I was, like, hoping for, like, an example that was,
well,
like,
I don't really know what you mean by that. Here's two, actually. One, man corners woman to explain that he is one of the good ones.
Oh, yeah, that was like an example of slightly
better. And then here's another one. Brave. This woman doesn't tolerate any racism unless it's from her parents.
See, okay, can you explain the last one? Like the one you just read, like what the NI of that would be?
I mean, in general, a lot of these things are observations about the irony of how people are. And it's like, you can't notice the irony unless you are somehow detached from being a human. Because, for example, Brave, this woman doesn't tolerate racism unless it's from her parents. Like, and I would be like, isn't it weird how people are more accepting of their parents when if they weren't their parents, they wouldn't have been accepting by that individual? Where SI would be like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, no shit, you have SI experience with them and you understand them. And, you know, like,
Yes.
SI would be so in the fact that they love their parents and they know their parents, that they wouldn't realize, like, isn't it weird that just because somebody birthed you, you have different standards? And SI, because you
I
had,
remember, like, I used to write like satirical headlines just like for fun, and like one of them was like, I'm racist, but I support Black Lives Matter or something, because there are all these articles coming out that were like, I'm not racist, but I just can't agree with blah, 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 or something, social justice movement. So I just like took it and flipped it because I thought like the NI would be like funnier of like,
wait, here's another one.
Yeah.
Workplace sexism that will have your boss saying, that doesn't sound like him.
It is like societal commentary, dude.
Yeah. I mean, really, the reductress to me sounds extremely NFJ because it is very like culture. But like, I guess I don't even know if that helps anyone
it's funny.
understand
It's funny because like they play on like popular like headlines too, and the way that they're written today is like what my NE always sees. It's like they're like ripping on specific headlines of things that are actually real. Like, oh, like what's ways to say dad that will make someone go dad, or you know what I mean, like that, like formula. I think it's hilarious when you flip it and stuff.
Well, I guess like that's why NI is seen as very wise, and I think higher vibe NI is wise because it's able to really look at what's going on in a way without putting yourself in the shoes. But it's also
it is
like
detached,
kind
but
of
then
not human in a way because like
yes. I think I was gonna say like NI is detached no matter what. So when you have low vibe NI, they're detached and they can't get back into being a human and get out of their blank space because they're like rejecting what it means to even be human at that time. And usually if they're high vibe, they're rejecting it, but it's like funny or it's still copable with. But when you're low vibe, you can't cope with being a human and you're rejecting it. You don't have any SI to like tie yourself to the human experience.
Yeah, and if we don't feel like a human, then we're going to be very hard on ourselves when we act like a human and when we need to sleep or when we have human needs. We won't know how to meet the needs, we'll reject them, and we'll shame ourselves when we have them.
Yeah, and like I don't even think you have to be like a spiritual person. Like I know plenty of like nihilistic and like like atheists, like
Nietzsche
NJs.
himself was an NJ, so
yeah. So it's like I just think it's not necessarily that. It's just, well, to me, I just believe that spirituality exists to an extent whether or not you believe in it or how you believe in it. And either way, I think NJs remove themselves from understanding or being able to understand the opportunity to try and get understanding because they don't understand what they even have now or something when they're low vibe. So it's like they invoke like a spiritual cleansing, almost like a fast, like their body just doesn't let them take in new info or stimuli until they have dealt somehow with where they're at now, but they don't have anything to tie themselves. So it's like this whole like, how do you even deal with it? You just have to wait for the fog to clear and hope that gave you new insight. It seems like really hard because the fog always does clear, and it seems like it clears by itself, but it must be you subconsciously got some SINE inspiration from something, because I know that when I'm like say in an FI funk, if I get some kind of FE and TI from somewhere, I don't know what it is always, it helps me, I think, or something. I think that's the equivalent for NJs. You have to literally wait for the blankness to go away or do something, and then when it goes away, maybe later the insight will come back around. Because to me, I always think that after you go blank, Megan, you get a new insight later and it carries you through, so you're always progressing up, but in the moment you forget all of that. But then later I'm like, oh, it's like after you had that breakdown, you had this realization. Like I can like track them if I tap into it enough, like the realizations you've had each time you've like freaked out. So yeah, but it's always like effort to trust that process almost, because I think it's very SINE to know that there's shit working in the background. Because I know that I'm like a magnet collecting new stimuli everywhere I go, so I don't ever think about trying to figure things out now, because I assume the figuring out will just come to me because I've been collecting just things to help the figuring out do itself, like my body self process it. So
yeah.
I
I mean, I don't know. I like for some reason, get very tripped up trying to even explain this because I don't really think anything I could say is going to make sense anyway. So,
Yeah, and see, like, I think an NJ saying that, it's like less SI, like, kind of attachment to that statement compared to like an NP, SJ, or SP saying it, because they would like, it'd be like, oh my God.
honestly,
like,
I'm just so sick of people thinking I use SI when I don't. It's very alienating.
yeah, like, because I think someone else saying that when they had SI, they would just need to be like reminded of the SI, but you can't really apply that to an NJ. So it's like they're asking for someone to just feed them SI or solve their problem or something. And that's something I've had to like learn to like not just assume they can use SI to get themselves out of it or something if they feel alienated. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like low vibe SI is, and also another thing that like bothers me, I guess, is it's like, so for me, low vibe SI, like if I don't accidentally think it's lazy, then I think it's like, what's the other word? It's like kind of like determined to stay in that position, because I think they can use SI to get out of it, but they can't. So I don't know. It's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very, I mean, for me, as you can see, like and most people probably who don't use NI still don't know how to get, your NJ friends out of it. And you have to remember it's not really your responsibility necessarily
And I
for
wonder
them
if
to.
we are like supposed to just be more accepting of the fact that
Who's
people,
we?
NJs,
Uh-huh.
sorry, or should be more accepting of the fact that not everybody is going to notice the NI or something. I don't know. Like, I don't
I
know.
think, I
I'm
feel like,
very confused right now, honestly. I'm really like now I'm just like freaking out that this isn't going to be a good like
oh
video.
my God, no, because everyone that like doesn't have NI will think it's fascinating to observe you embodying, not
But
being in a
are
high
they
vibe NI
even
place.
going to observe me, or are they just going to think whatever they want to think because that's what people do?
It goes 50-50, and that's what you can't control. Sometimes they get something from it, sometimes they don't. Like for me, I can kind of track, like, and I'm just going off the SI that every single time you've said this is a bad video, no
I
one's
have a
gonna want to watch
question.
this.
I
Like,
have a
I'm like,
question.
you're wrong, because I actually know what the pattern's been. Yeah, what's
I
the
have a
question?
question. Why the hell do you understand me? Is it just the SI? What makes you different? Like what have
I wouldn't know.
because what is it that you see? I mean, I'm just because you actually do understand me. Why? Like, can you explain that to the listeners?
I'm like confused because you've said before that I don't understand you. So it's like,
Well,
I understand you
you've
more than most people,
learned.
though.
You've learned.
Yeah.
I don't know what you did, but you somehow used NE and SI to learn.
I guess so. Let's see. Like, well, I think the main thing, which is ironic because I'm trying to like figure this out right now, is like my SI isn't that strong. Like a lot of people call me like a floating head of a human being as an NE Dom, and like I think that I just don't have any SI attachment to how people have been or will be, or any conviction on how humans should or shouldn't or do or don't function. So it was like a combination of like learning to take someone's word at it and being curious enough to test, trial and error, test my own theories about how it works. Like, I guess I'm just a super open-minded person, but also I am super patient, despite how you sometimes like to say I'm not. I'm really fucking patient in the long run sense that, like, anyone having an issue, if my gut, my latent NI says don't give up, try to figure this out, don't stress yourself out, just figure it out day by
I also
day.
think
If it
I think
works.
that and low vibe NI is very nihilistic. Very
Low
not
vibe NI is also just really impatient. Like, to me, I'm like, I don't have to know. The universe doesn't owe me answers at every single second just because I want them at that moment. I have to wait and see, and I have faith that they'll come to me if I wait, because I have the SI to remember that they have come before and stuff. So I think yeah. But like, back
I
to,
guess I
I
don't
mean,
think that anything that has happened is a given. Like, and I don't know if that's bad SI, but like
no,
for
I think
example,
that is,
I can worry about money like all the time, despite always having what I need. Because how do I know that that's going to continue? I never know.
yeah, I think it is bad SI to not have a gauge of what kind of energy is going to continue or not, because everything just feels like a flipping given because you can't remember the exact progression of how it happened. So for all you know, it could be over and you just didn't catch it or something. But for me, I trust that my SI will remember like everything, so I can go over it. And through years of just being able to meticulously examine things, I've been able to track what kinds of things continue and what don't, because my memory has just tracked all of that. But yeah, I think like at the end of the day, I'm just the kind of person who I think, maybe it's kind of arrogant, I truly think I am the most open-minded of how humans possibly could be. Like, I think that I'm trying always to
And
get
I
to the
think
next level,
all
open-minded.
ENFPs have that ability in them. But
Yeah, but like, yeah, and I think I've like actively rejected a lot of the SI that the world has taught me. Like, I think that like just from a childhood of like learning, like not necessarily that I would be depending on my NI, but like also just like rejecting my SI. It's like, if this person's acting like this and it looks like this, but they're saying it's not, I will like remember that as a possible interpretation and just like match it next time or something. So yeah, like I guess I just have enough patience to have faith that there is NI and it does exist. I just have to find out what it looks like. And I could be wrong or right at any given moment. And I think that that philosophy in view was what kept me going for long enough to like start to see patterns. But I also think what I will say is like, yeah, we've been friends now for like what, almost 5 years. Like, definitely I've been building my understanding day by day, and I'm still wrong even now to some extent. I'm just patient enough to know that I could be wrong. And I think that patience,
so do you think that
curiosity is the biggest part of it. Like I think I have more of that than most people on this earth. So
do you think that like maybe okay, so NPs are like really good guessers in my opinion. And a lot of times you can be lazy and still get it right like a lot of the time. And so do you think it's just maybe in order for NPs to understand NJs better is just to sort of understand that you might be wrong and like to wait for the SI to build up about how NJs work a little bit more?
Yes, because I think like we're good at guessing, but I think we can also be more patient because we have more SI. Like we're like, yeah, like I'm gonna take my sweet time trying to understand it if you don't have an emotional attachment to it. Like if I had to like figure out how NI works while in a conflict with an NJ at the moment, I probably wouldn't figure it out. But like as the hobby, I've decided to study them because they're fascinating or something.
It's almost like low vibe NI is incredibly alienated, and high vibe NI is like this higher self alien creature that's like
like you can like point things out and be like objective about things, like not take a side or something. Like and I think most people, I've said this before about FE too, but like I think like for me, my understanding of NI and FE and all the functions that might seem like misunderstood in general is because I'm patient and humble enough to know that I might be wrong, but still like somewhat confident enough to not back down on what like I think, because I've said things about NI before that you disagreed with, and then later you like realized what I was talking about and just refined it, but it was like pretty much the same thing still. So it's like, like I just have patience that eventually the process will be revealed either way to me, that like I will understand it either way. I think that faith has carried me further than maybe otherwise I would have if I didn't have it. So like I can only say that it was quite literally maybe my own sense of like latent NI. It didn't make me give up and just be like, some people are just crazy or something. But it's because they're not. So
I'm confused.
Well, I explained it with like NE, so but yeah.
Are you saying that if NPs are like unsure about NJs that they would want to just call their behavior crazy?
Yeah, like because I think NPs sometimes think NJs doing things is with SI. Like that if they say these like
I feel like there's literally no way to get people to understand that not everybody in the fucking planet uses SI. It fucking pisses me off. Like I'm sorry. Like actually existing because it's human and trying to convince people that no, I'm actually not operating on SI is hell. Like there's no way. People are just because you're lying.
Yeah, because it's SI to like
sorry, I'm not
it's like SI to like have SI. So
Like, I don't, yeah, but like everybody assumes that everybody is using SI all day long. Like, all day long. Everything in society is built on SI. Like, there's not one thing that is not completely built on SI. And then everybody thinks that you're operating under that. And I'm sorry, like, I'm freaking out, but I'm like thinking about all the people that like just cannot exist in this world because people either think you're lying or they think that you're this like savior of a person that like is this super evolved person. And like, neither of those are true, most likely. Like,
yeah, well, I think
either
that
people project on the NJ as being this like really wise old soul that can save the world, or they're just like this crazy person. It's like,
I think that
those
the
are
more
too far away.
I think
Like,
that the more that NJs just accepted that they're never gonna feel 100% human, they start to act more human, because humans just don't. Okay, like I don't know, like people that
well, like, do you know
identify
what I
with
mean?
their. Yes, I do. That's why I'm talking. I think people that identify with their human side a lot, aka people with more SI, can't relate to people that don't relate to their human side, aka people without SI.
It's just really
And
frustrating.
yeah, but like
Like,
also it's frustrating when you don't understand my very human struggles as an NP with so much SI that I'm trying to constantly go against. Like you've invalidated that too.
what's an
So
example of that so that we can
like every
explain that to
every single
people?
time I get mad at you for
I
like,
know the example. I'm just saying, like, to explain.
wait, what? You know the
I
example?
know the example in my head. I just am wondering if you can explain to the NPs listening.
Okay, like so every single time,
Hyperjournalism?
like, yeah, like it's like I'm like trying to break free from like the previous path that I've been walking for like, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years of my life. Like that is like, if you take the amount, that's 365 days a year, like times 7 or 8. That's, and how many moments, how many seconds, how many minutes was I identified as that? So for me to detach from that is to detach from every single minute as a human I spent in that state of mind thinking I am going to be a journalist. I'm going to do this. Same as when someone dies and it's like, oh, my friend of 10 years is now gone. Count up the minutes again, like 365 days where I could count on talking to him. Da, da, da. It's like sometimes like, oh, like NJs just kind of skip over that. I just get over it. But then they don't understand when I just can't get over things. Like fights that we've had that remind me of previous fights we've had. Well, those previous fights, those moments where I was like sinking into anxiety and like sadness from like all, like it's like SI is this entire archive of like being able to remember somatic moments that have profoundly influenced how you live in this body. To remember all that all the time is sometimes really also debilitating. And I think for NJs, like the moments that they feel misunderstood and alienated are quite literally how most humans feel all the time, which is why they do like fucked up shit. But like High Vibe NI doesn't do that because it doesn't have that kind of thing weighing them down. Because even me at my highest vibe as a person, I still have SI and I still have all these traumatic things in my archive that are like preventing me from being the best self to overcome the struggles of being human, to blast into alien mode and get like a million like intuitive things and put them out there into reality. So like, yeah, like I totally hear you about feeling not understood and alienated. I don't have the exact NJ way of being alienated, but just like the concept of that in of itself is almost like weirdly human to feel disconnected. But I think SI users just kind of live with, well, at least I'm connected to the earth, even if I feel disconnected from like people. I feel like sometimes NJs, especially NFJs, almost have the inverse. So it's interesting for me to listen to you be so candid about feeling like that misunderstood thing, because it's not something I think you usually let yourself talk about or dwell on enough.
I just think it's like
to like talk
absolute
about.
bullshit that NJs are never, I feel like we never feel like just real people. Like, people don't treat us like real people. Like, when we're feeling healthy, people think that we're the wisest person to have ever existed. But then when we are just slipping even a little bit,
I mean, you
it's
guys,
like,
because
you need to go to therapy.
yeah,
It's like,
but
there's nothing like,
I mean, I think that NJs just don't know how to forgive people for
when
just being
people,
human. Like, we
well,
think it's an
no,
excuse,
I
but
know
it's
that,
like
but also
real.
people don't like,
Well,
acknowledge the problems that we do have when we have them, I feel.
I mean, that like makes sense. Like, because humans can't relate to inhuman problems or something.
Well, I don't know if it's really even fair to say that NJs like aren't human.
Well, I think that like
I mean,
it's
we
not like they're
are.
not human, like you're physically like a flesh, but like if you're disconnected from being human, then like all the benefits and drawbacks of being human you just can't relate to. So that's just how it is.
I don't know if I agree with that or not. I'm not
Okay,
really
well,
sure what that means.
yeah. But yeah, I gotta go soon, dude.
Okay. I mean, I just don't really understand what's going on, but
I mean, from my perspective, what this has been a conversation, and I think that the fact that you're embodying like low vibe and I am like showing it in the SE is much more powerful than just sitting there and people having like theoretically imagine it or something. Because
I
to
mean,
me, seeing low vibe and
what are
I
they
and high vibe,
seeing?
low vibe and I don't know what else to say. Like they're just seeing someone who's blank and explaining that right now they're blank, and they can literally watch a video where you weren't blank and like compare it to understand like the SI like before, after, or whatever. Because to me, if I didn't have experience with low vibe NI and high vibe NI in my friends, I wouldn't have been able to fully comprehend that there is like a spectrum for like NI users and that it's NI that's at play. So I think showing it in the SE, which like people can't just, especially NPs, they can't imagine what the SE could be. If they see it physically with their eyes, it's much more powerful than just trying to sit here and be like, I think I've had an experience with low vibe NI
I guess
before.
I'm just like,
I'm not sure.
well, why showing it doesn't seem to work though, because people just see whatever they want and just assume that they're using SI anyway. So,
Well, no, but we are explaining and I spent a whole video debunking NE, and I spent this video trying to monitor the NE and explain things I knew would resonate with NE users. It's up to
okay.
you. It's on you if you want to trust me or not here as
Well,
the other person on this podcast, you know.
well,
So.
I mean, hopefully it does. I didn't understand, but hopefully somebody else did.
Okay, yeah. But also it's like, just because remember how we're trying to like talk about this concept, which is, and I think it's great that like just about how frustrating it is, you're here still trying to talk about this and hopefully it will resonate, I think, with SI users. I personally think it will, because I'm an SI user. I kind of know the reasons why people aren't able to understand NI, which is why I spent a whole video unpacking it. But I think this video will give people more insight, because there is a rhyme or reason for why people sometimes project and sometimes don't, and it's based on like SI and NE common conceptions or not of like people. So like I think that we hit a lot of the SI ones here and stuff that like might be reasons why people haven't understood it until now.
I'm just like really pissed off, like about SI in general.
Like SI existing?
Yes, it's so frustrating. Like, am I literally so, I'm sorry, like, am I literally so, like, unself-aware that, like, I am reacting to SI and I just don't know?
I mean, the SI of
Or,
like,
or am I just not reacting to SI and people think I am, you know?
I mean, I think it could go either way at a given moment. Like, because sometimes people think that I'm judging them with TI and I'm not. Sometimes I am judging them but don't know. And like maybe the answer is somewhere always in the middle. So maybe that's like what it is with SI too. It's like they're not all the way right, but you're not all the way right either. It's like somewhere in the middle, perhaps.
Yeah.
Like, because I think SI is always a factor in quite literally everything we do, because I think every function is, but how much is a factor, I think, is what people could project. And that you could like be like no, or like not be aware of. But like I think it's like, okay, SI is always a factor, but its manifestation exactly is going to be different based on what your stack is or how you're feeling. So it's kind of like, you know, part of the picture but not all the way, they know part of the picture not all the way. So I don't know, does it really matter that much? Like I don't think like SE, they're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, they're wrong is always the
I
answer.
think
I don't know.
it feels like to low vibe NI that the world is literally shutting us out from existing with it.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like, because I don't use NI. But like that makes me be like, well,
Do you think
all
that that's
these true.
accurate, or am I just?
I mean, I wouldn't know because I don't have NI, which is, I think, ironically, maybe the world shutting you out. To me, it sounds about right, but unless I literally took your body for a day and wasn't an NI user, I couldn't like accurately say. It just seems to me, from my impression, that yes, it does seem like that at times because the world doesn't understand NI enough to have like treatment for when NI is upset. A lot of it is like SI solutions to things or whatever, which do work more than NI users realize. But I think that the existential
I don't know,
coping
just
and pain,
being blind to SI makes you blind to the world in so many ways, and like it's whatever. I don't feel like I gained any clarity from this video, but hopefully people listening did. So,
well, I mean, but do you ever gain clarity when you're in a great state, like immediately? Like immediately?
I don't know. I can't piece together my experiences like that.
Which is like SI, so yeah.
I don't know what that means. Do I ever? And also, why would what happened before have anything to do with now? I don't think that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think clarity for an NJ always comes after the fog fades. Like, especially if you're in low vibe NI, you're not going to get any clarity because your like system or whatever like this stuff is locked up. But then later the clarity does come, like from my SI impressions of being your friend, watching you and talking to you so often. That's what I know. But that's hard to trust right now because you don't have the SI to really trust that. So
I don't even know what that means, like at all. And like that is like therein lies the problem. Like I literally don't understand what that means. And I think that if people can really realize that lower vibe NI does not understand SI, and everything in the world is built on SI, like that's why we can't engage with the world. That's why we feel like a black hole. Like I don't know what you're talking about. And like whenever people talk at us with like, oh, remember how things used to be? Who cares? Who cares? Things change all the time. You know what I mean? None of that has anything to do with me. You know, like, and I'm not even trying to say, like, because, okay, I understand that there's wisdom in SI, but that's just not the wisdom that I have. And so I'm sure what you're saying is like very helpful. There's just a disconnect, you know? Like, and I'm open to it. Like and you know I am. Like, I'm always like trying to understand that. But like,
yeah, and like you have faith in my perspective because I've proven to be correct about these kinds of things before. But like in the moment, like you can't trust the world or anything, especially me because part of the world. So of course you wouldn't be able to. Like to me, it seems logical that you, like nothing I say right now would make sense to you, even if it were completely true and accurate because you're in low vibe NI right now. So like, I'm not gonna like, also, I used to get upset when this happened, but now look at how I'm just kind of nodding and like almost like a weird therapist vibe, like, okay, yeah, like
I think low vibe
this is trained. This is trained.
Low vibe NI feels so confused and just hears blah 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 around them and has no idea what they're talking about. Like it's like
like you can't. Yeah,
like you're using words, but those words mean absolutely nothing to me. Is like how it feels. But anyway, I am gonna go.
I think this is the first time. What I will say though is like this is probably the first time anyone's captured low vibe NI on camera or something, and I think it's like really good. It's really good to SI for it to literally be shown because it's never been shown before, and I'm pretty fucking sure of this because if it was, we talked about it. So I think, and because you always trust me and I always end up right, like this is extremely accurate and helpful, just like all the videos that we've made where we were literally fighting on camera and people had their minds blown about how FJs and FPs resolve conflict. That similarity is what I see now with this energy that people need to see. Oh, NJs don't always have it together because people always think you guys do. But then they see y'all have a breakdown. They're like, oh, what?
Why do they think we have it together?
Because you don't seem like you react to all the SI things that hold people back every day.
We don't, but there's also SI things that help people. Like, and I know you know that.
But like we think about the things that hold us back more than the things that don't. So that's why it's like, oh, so that's what it's like to be an NJ. I'm like saying these SI things and people are like, yeah, and then you're like, no, I don't understand that. It's like, oh, really? see, like, to me, it's like, this is how we, you know, like, this is just our dynamic, but people don't realize it. And I think people seeing that there's a side to NI that they literally are in the dark and realizing it's real from like watching it is very different. So I will say that's what I think. Yeah, people later will understand this. So yeah, but my phone's dying. So.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day.